So I've noticed something very interesting. Due to the fact that AI can now make everything perfect from a technical point of view, naturally, graphic designers have actually been using their design intelligence to win graphic design awards or gain clients and notoriety, all with imperfect design. Or shall I say, design that is imperfect from a very aesthetic technical standpoint. Take a look at this for a moment. This is an award-winning design from 2025. It is the Triple J project. And straight away, it feels like it's breaking the rules, right? You know, we have different type styles, completely different layouts, shifting compositions across each piece, right across the board. And this is where it becomes useful for your own work, because consistency doesn't necessarily have to be about everything looking the same or trying to jam or force a strict cohesion. It's more about how everything behaves, because if you notice on the billboard mockups, the color system is a background color, and then the font being a more vibrant, brighter version of that color. And this leads onto something that you can actually try for yourself on your own work. So instead of locking everything into one rigid layout across multiple designs, keep two things consistent, so like the position of your typography or the rhythm of your spacing as examples, and allow everything else to vary and to be imperfect. Now that alone will instantly make your work feel more dynamic without losing that control. And that's exactly what's happening here. Yes, this is a typeface design project, but the presentation is truly next level. It changes from piece to piece, but the color system is crossed over all the designs, as is the energy. It's something an intelligent design mind thinks up, and not something AI can effectively do on its own, without prompting, that is. It still would require the human intention first and foremost for it to get even close to this. And I don't think you can replicate this level of work right now anyway. But now, check this out, because this next example pushes things even further. So this is a true design gem, and it's also another award-winning design, the Phase 3 type project. Now this one breaks a lot of the rules we're usually taught. The type is stretched, it's squashed, it's pushed into awkward positions, and you've got letters bleeding over the edge of the frame here, elements that feel like they're almost too big for the space they're in. And normally we'd lay our eyes on this and think something like, wow, what a mess, right? But here it doesn't, it still feels clean somehow. And this is the second thing to really lock into your mind. You can push things much further than you think, as long as there's still intention behind it. And so here's how you can apply this to your own work. Take a design you've already made and deliberately push one element way too far. So maybe scale the type bigger than feels correct, or stretch it slightly, or let it break the grid, and then refine everything around it so it still feels intentional. That tension between control and imbalance is where this style starts to actually come alive here. And that leads nicely onto what you're looking at here. This is one of the clearest examples of what's really going on here in this video. This is another design from the AGDA Awards, and it is the Elseworld project. And straight away, it feels more human, right, than anything else you've seen. The typography almost looks handwritten, like it wasn't overthought too much. But notice how it bleeds into the layout without a shred of shame at all. It's overlapping elements all over the place. And this should feel messy, but really it doesn't. And this is where everything comes together, because when you look across all the bottles, you'll notice everything still holds together. The tone is consistent, the energy is consistent, and the way everything is composed still feels well thought out. So yeah, it's not polished in a way that we've been taught, like machine style polished. But it's not careless either, it just feels honest, like truly honest. And that is a huge difference here, because this kind of work is confident enough not to try and impress you with clean, perfect design. And that's exactly why it stands out right now in today's world. Because in a world where perfect design is instant and everywhere, being perfect will make your work, well, invisible. And now compare that to something like the Aqua logo project by 6 Inc. And now everything might seem minimal and clean again, at a first glance that is, of course. That expressive human feel that we've just looked at starts to disappear, and instead we find something much more controlled. But here's the interesting part. This might look almost too simple to be interesting. Just a few geometric shapes, nothing overly complicated at all. But the more you look at it, the stranger it does get. Lines are intersecting in ways that feel slightly weird or awkward, the balance feels unconventional, and there's a weird kind of intersection at the top. And yet somehow it holds together perfectly. It doesn't follow the kind of clean, predictable geometry you'd expect from a minimal logo design. And that's exactly why it's differentiating itself here. This is what I mean by intelligent imperfection. Even in something like this very stripped back logo, there's a willingness to break symmetry, to let forms overlap in ways that feel a little uncomfortable. And this is something you can take straight into your own work. So instead of aiming for perfect balance every single time, try introducing a slight disruption somewhere. Let elements intersect, let shapes push into each other, and then refine it until it still feels cohesive in some way. But this right here, this resonates with me deeply on a personal level, probably due to nostalgia mixed in with graphic design. But if you look at what the Pokemon and Oreo campaign by Dentsu did, it does go in a completely different direction. On the superficial surface level, it just looks like a packaging design project. It's a collaboration, some printed graphics, nothing too complicated at all really. But there's something else happening here that I want to share with you guys. Each cookie has a different design, has a Pokemon on it. Some are common, some are rare, and without thinking about it, people will start collecting them, well, in their stomachs. It becomes interactive in a kind of foodie way. And that's the interesting part, because the design is something you engage with as a consumer. Even the visual styles on the advertising campaign support that. It's simple, slightly pixel-esque, almost nostalgic, going back to the Game Boy days. It taps into that familiar Pokemon feeling straight away, and that's without overcomplicating anything. And that's exactly why it works. It's all about behavior rather than just purely perfection aesthetics. And when you step back and you do look at all of these examples together in today's video, that's where things really start to connect, or they should connect. It really isn't about just one style or one trend or one way of designing something, not at all. It is about where the idea begins and what it's trying to achieve. And sometimes it might begin with something like expression, where things feel more human and less controlled. It might begin with structure, where everything is built on a clear system. And sometimes it begins with behavior, focusing what people actually do with the design. And the key thing is, to those who have actually followed along and listened and learned with today's video, the designers we've looked at have all committed to the idea of perfect imperfection. They don't try to do everything at once, full steam ahead, or play it safe. They decide what matters most for the project, and they push it properly. And that's where the value is here for you guys, because most designers are still searching for one approach that works for everything, that holy grail method they can rely on every single time. But when you look at this and you look at the kind of work, it becomes clear that approach doesn't really exist. The strongest work comes from choosing the right starting point, backed by the message and what it needs to say, and then working in differentiation thereafter if it's needed. And if this has made you look at graphic design differently, even just slightly, then click one of the videos on screen, because what you have just seen here is only part of a much bigger shift happening right now. But until next time guys, design your future today. Peace.